In this lecture, we'll be talking about how we can display all of our grocery stores. We have already saved the grocery store in Firebase Firestore database. That's great. But we still have to display it, right? So how do we display the stores? The stores will be displayed in the store list page. And the store list page is marked as a stateful widget. Apart from the other widgets, as you can see, they are all stateless. You are going to learn later on that why this is a stateful widget and not a stateless widget. But the first thing we need to do is we need to create a view model which will control the store list page. So let's go ahead and add a view model, store list view model, which is going to control everything that happens on the store list page. I'm going to go to the view model and going to add a new file. We will call it store list view model.dart. This will be our view model. So I'm going to go ahead and create a class called store list view model. Great. Now the question is, what will be inside store list view model? In order to give the stores to the store list page, we can actually go ahead and provide a stream of data. So I'm going to go ahead and say query snapshot, going to import Cloud Firestore on the top, as you can see. And we're going to create a property called stores as stream. This means that we're going to be getting the data as a stream. Now we can use our Firebase Firestore instance .collection and passing in the stores. So for the collection name, we are going to pass in the stores .snapshots. This means that it is going to give us all the stores that are in that particular collection, which is called stores. This is great. Now we can go back to our store list page and start using this store list view model that we just created. The first thing we need to do is we need to create an instance of the store list view model. So I'm going to go to my store list class. There we go. And I will create an instance. Let's go ahead and import the store list view model. Make sure that this is underscore store list page, and the reason that we created as underscore store list page, this is the class that maintains the state, and we don't really want it to be exposed to the outside world. The class that is visible to the outside world is the store list page, which is a stateful widget. So now we have created an instance of store list view model. Next up, we need to go ahead and build the body. You can see the build body function, which is right over here, is called using the scaffold right over here. But the build body doesn't really do anything. You can see it's kind of like completely empty, not really displaying anything. So let's go ahead and use the build body function to display a list of data. We know that the list of data is coming as stream, so we can use a stream builder. So let's go ahead and create stream builder. And we can identify that the stream builder will be working on query snapshot. So let's go ahead and say query snapshot. Query snapshot is part of Firebase, so we may have to import Cloud Firebase. There we go, Cloud Firestore. In order to create stream builder, we need to provide the stream. The good thing is that we have already added the store list view model, VM, dot store as stream. So that's why we created that particular property. The next up, we need to provide the builder argument, which is going to take in a context and a particular snapshot. This snapshot can contain the data that we are fetching from the stream, and in our case, it will be a list of stores. There are a couple of things that we will check over here. The first thing we're going to check is if the snapshot has any data. So if it has some data, and we will also check some other thing, which is if the snapshot.data.docs is not empty. So if it's not empty, which means that we have some sort of a documents. If we have these documents, then go ahead and call a function called build list, which we don't have right now, and pass in the snapshot.data. Great. However, if snapshot does not really have anything, then we can take advantage of our empty results widget and pass in a message saying constants dot no stores found. No stores found. And we will try to import constants. So let's go ahead and see if we can import constants over here. Import constants. There we go. Now, obviously, we need to implement the build list function, which will be responsible for actually building the complete list. So let's go ahead and implement this function. This function, build list, is going to return a widget. So we're going to say widget build list. We are passing in a query snapshot. So we will get the snapshot. Now, build list is responsible for building a list, but first we need to get a stores in a condition in a way that we can build a list. So we're going to use a snapshot dot docs, which are all the documents in the snapshot, dot map, because docs is a array or a list. We can go ahead and loop through it. We'll get every doc, and now we need to convert it to a store view model so that it can be displayed on our view. The problem is that how do we convert it? Well, one of the ways will be to do the conversion over here. Take the doc and map it and create a new store view model so that we can eventually display it on the screen. But we try to do things a little bit more cleanly. So let's go ahead and jump into store view model. And inside the store view model, we can perhaps create a function, a factory function that can take a query document snapshot and return us the store view model. So this is a function. Let's go ahead and first import Cloud Firestore. So you can see that from the snapshot, we take in or we use the store model and we instantiate a store model, and then we eventually pass it to the store view model. But the store model does not have any function called from snapshot. So we have to go to our store model and also create a similar factory function. So let me go ahead and jump onto store, and right over here, we can go ahead and create a function. There we go. Make sure that we import the correct things over here. Let's see if we are importing. I think it's complaining about positional arguments. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so we don't really have to pass in the doc ID. There we go. Perfect. All right. Let's go back to our store list. Once we are in the store list page, which is the store list, we should be able to call store view model dot factory function from snapshot, passing in the doc, and then eventually converting it to a list. So what we have done is that we got the snapshot from the Firestore. Snapshot has a property called docs, which is going to give you all the documents in the snapshot, which for us, it's going to give us all the different stores that are saved in the Firestore database. We're going to map through every document. We're going to pass the document to the store view model.from snapshot, and using the document, we are going to construct an object of store view model. So if we go to the store view model, you can see that it is a factory function which is in the end going to return you an instance of the store view model. Now, since the instance or object of store view model depends on the actual model store, we have to construct the store also in a very similar fashion. All right, let's go back. So we got the stores, but obviously these are not getting displayed. Now we can finally go ahead and return a list view builder. So I'm going to use listview.builder, which is going to allow me to create a list view. We're going to provide the item count, which will be equals to the stores.length. I'm going to go ahead and also say item builder, which is going to take in a context and index. The item builder will be responsible for returning an item I want to display in the list. So it's kind of like returning a cell. All right. So let's go ahead and see that how we can do that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the store, which is from stores and passing in the index. We are getting constant errors. We need to see what exactly is going on over here. Method not found from snapshot. Kind of weird because we do have the method from snapshot. Let's go ahead and refresh this and see if this error persists or not. Okay, so it looks like it's okay now. All right, so we got the store now, which is an instance of store view model. Always remember, when you're working on the widgets, which is a page or a view, you're only dealing with the view model. You're not directly dealing with the model. So that's why the store is an instance of the store view model. Now, using this store view model, we can pass it, we can create another function which will be responsible for creating a build list item. And the reason I'm creating these small function is that in the end, it is definitely going to help us. So we are going to be passing in a store view model. So we can call it store. And now I can go ahead and in this, I can go ahead and say build list item. There we go. And passing in the store. Now the build list item is responsible for actually building a list item, kind of like building the row or the cell, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and return a list tile with a title, which will be text store.name. Let's go ahead and save it. And there we go. You can see all of our stores are getting displayed. Isn't it cool that how quickly we got it to work and how it looks really nice? And now we can actually decorate it. We can go ahead and say maybe even a subtitle. And in the subtitle, I can go ahead and say store.address. And there we go. We got the address also. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I think that's pretty cool that we are able to do this so quickly. And we can actually see it working live, right? Now, one other thing we can do is provide some sort of a style. So I'm just going to go ahead and say text style. And you can go ahead and use any text that you want. I'm just going to go ahead and say 18. And the font weight, maybe we can go ahead and say font weight dot 500 or something. There we go. All right. I think this is pretty cool that we are able to display all the items. Pretty cool. And one of the things that is important is that creating these small functions. So you can see now the code is nice and tidy. Whenever we have to build a list, we have this function, and this function then calls the build list item, which is only responsible for building the list item. So if you want to change this particular list item, and maybe you want to display something on the right-hand side or on the left-hand side or anything, well, you have only one function, which is build list item, and you go ahead and change that. Pretty cool. So we got all of these things getting displayed. That is really good. Our next step would be if I go ahead and tap on any of these stores, I want to go to a different page where I can go ahead and add items. So let's go ahead and get started on adding items in the next section.